Hi, lovely people. Well, if you're anything like me, you may have heard people in the last few days saying that they had a sense that something big was going to happen. Well, something big has happened. Something very big, in fact. Right when we were told by our governments that we can take our masks off, not that I was ever wearing one, and right as they're singing us lullabies about how the war against COVID is won, we've done it, we're safe now, we find ourselves in the midst of an enormous environmental catastrophe, one that will have devastating global consequences. Just off the coast of Denmark, the Russian-owned Nord Stream 1 and 2 pipelines, which carry natural gas from Russia to Western Europe, have been deliberately and possibly irreparably damaged and are currently spewing millions of cubic metres of gas into the Baltic Sea, creating toxic bubble fields, one of which is over a kilometre wide already. This will see devastating destruction of marine life, obviously, as well as of our atmosphere. But the ripples these toxic pools are creating are set to have far more devastating consequences than environmental vandalism. 2 powerful explosions equivalent to thousands of pounds of TNT were detected on the 26th of September, and soon after, the gas began leaking into the ocean. As this gas is 90% methane, which of course is named as the #1 culprit in climate change, one can only imagine the extent of devastation on marine life and the impact on humanity. These impacts will go far beyond ecological damage and way beyond Western Europe. It'll affect many aspects of society and ultimately will cause a population reduction. You think the price of fossil fuel is high right now? You ain't seen nothing yet. There'll be many who simply won't be able to afford to heat their homes in the midst of what's forecast to be an extremely harsh winter ahead in Europe. This is a deliberate act, it's clear, with governments around the world calling it sabotage. And of course, mainstream media across the globe are reporting that it's Russia, it's Putin who's done this. And as is the new standard in mainstream media, no evidence has been provided to back this claim, a claim that is likely to see the majority of the world's population supporting all-out war against Russia for committing such a heinous act. But let's just stop and think about it for a minute before we start crying out for Biden to push the red button. Wouldn't it be more likely that the same people who are responsible for the sudden coincidental sabotage of our other vital basic needs manufacturing resources might also be responsible for this? You know what I'm talking about. Our major food processing plants all over the planet suddenly burning to the ground, and our oil refineries either burning down or being blown up or just being shut down by our governments, as has happened here in New Zealand, with many accounts here actually of concrete being pumped into the pipes to make sure it can never be used again. Unverified reports, but also unverified that these reports are not true. Or our battery factories, such as the Tesla battery factory fires that just keep happening, which produce energy packs for far more than cars, by the way. Or the enormous Rockton plant fire just last year, which coincidentally happened to be storing 4 million gallons of crude oil at the same time that the unexplained fire broke out and burnt it all up. Why would Putin do such a thing as Nord Stream anyway? I mean, seriously, it would be nothing short of national suicide and utter mind-blowing stupidity on Putin's part to do this. And he may be many things, but stupid isn't one of them. The last thing he would do is destroy his own energy pipelines. It's a huge part of Russia's source of wealth and power. They would lose their own vital resource as well as their leverage over other countries that they provide natural gas to, such as Germany, for example. That'd be psychotic. And isn't it funny? I mean, obviously, Hollywood's been painting Russia as the bad guy for decades, but boy, the mainstream media across the entire globe, and the US particularly, have been going absolute gangbusters to paint Putin as psychotic in recent times. And if you've believed the reports that you've heard about Putin, well, you may turn this video off at this point. But let's just say the world was going to need to believe that Putin was absolutely psychotic to be capable of committing an act as crazy as this one. You know, you're trying to tell me that in the middle of a war, when Russia needs all its resources, that it would voluntarily sacrifice its most valuable resources and the political power that those resources give them, it's ridiculous. It's not in Putin's interests in the least to do such a thing. Have a listen to what the Prime Minister of Poland said about what this is all really about.
Today, we are also dealing with an act of sabotage. We do not know the details of what happened yet, but we can clearly see that it is an act of sabotage, an act that probably marks the next stage in the escalation of the situation we are dealing with in Ukraine.
And let's just lend a little bit of perspective to the war that he's referring to, shall we? This is footage of Ukrainian army shelling in Donetsk from just 10 days ago, which killed 13 civilians, 2 of which were children. As usual, mainstream media has said nothing about this, not one word, even though it's been verified that it was indeed the Ukrainian army, of course supported by Azov, that committed this. Just as it's been proven that many of the other attacks that have been blamed on Russia were actually perpetrated by the Ukrainian army and Azov, and that many were actually staged events. I can't even show you even a glimpse of the plethora of footage I've seen of what's really going on in Ukraine because it's just too horrific. But to be clear, it's undeniable live footage of the Ukrainian army, supported by Azov, killing their own people. This is the Ukrainian army and the white supremacist Azov group that our own government is funding, as are many governments around the world, where your tax dollars are going to. And of course, blamed on Russia in this theatre that's been called a war. Anyway, if Putin didn't do Nord Stream, who would do such a thing and why? Well, funnily enough, Biden said that they would do this exact thing about 3 weeks before the Ukraine war broke out. Here he is, back in early February 22.
If Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. Then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
How will you do that exactly? Since the project and control of the project is within Germany's control.
We will. I promise you, we'll be able to do it.
You can hear there that even the journalist couldn't quite fathom what she was hearing. And here's what his Under-Secretary of State, Victoria Nuland, had to say just a few weeks before Biden in January 22.
With regard to Nord Stream 2, we continue to have very strong and clear conversations with our German allies, and I want to be clear with you today. If Russia invades Ukraine, one way or another, Nord Stream 2 will not move forward.
And now, what a coincidence! Look at what's happened. And how convenient that the war in Ukraine brings justification, in a sense, for such an atrocity. An atrocity that qualifies as the most destructive act ever to have been committed by any US administration in history. Potentially worse than 9/11. If, of course, it was committed by them. Why not say, we'll halt its operation for a while, considering the death toll it could cause? No, that was a menacingly clear message that they both delivered there, a message of we will destroy it regardless of how many lives it will cost. I know many people watching this video will be believing the mainstream media accounts of the whole Russia-Ukraine war narrative, but doesn't it raise some red flags when you have the US government, the president himself, saying that they will sacrifice an indeterminate, indefinite amount of lives to protect Ukraine? You know, obviously they're not protecting the good people of Ukraine here, they're protecting their interests in Ukraine. I mean, Victoria Nuland herself has said that there are multiple US-funded bioweapons manufacturing facilities right throughout Ukraine. And we know that it's a hotbed of sex trafficking and child trafficking. So you have to genuinely ask yourself, what are they actually protecting here? And this is not just about protecting Ukraine. This is about finding a reason to start World War III and finish the job that they've started of bringing the world to its knees so that they can be the ones to lift it back up again. But, you know, It's not really in the least bit surprising. This is all totally in keeping with all their other actions to bring about complete global collapse in order to usher in the New World Order. Remember this methane release. This is by the same bunch of suits that told us it was necessary to spend billions of dollars to mitigate methane pollution, methane in the form of cow flatulence. Actually, did you know, even though they nicknamed it the fart tax, it was actually cows' burps that they had more of an issue with? Good grief. Honestly, how are we supposed to take these people seriously? Call me an Uber, will you? I just want to get off this planet, please.
You can't get a taxi off the planet, man.
Well, call me a space Uber then.
There's no such thing as a space
It wasn't-
Uber.
It's 2022. Surely there must be such a thing. It wasn't long ago, actually, that Biden said he thought people were selfish for having a wood stove. Yes, selfish if you want to burn wood to heat your house, to keep your family warm. Well, jeepers, Joe, not all of us can afford the latest energy-saving heat pump or put solar panels on our roof. Oh, by the way, also, did you know that the Climate Action Council in the US, the CAC, is currently drafting laws within its climate scoping plan to prohibit the burning of wood, to make it a criminal offence to burn wood to heat your home or cook your food. And at the same time that natural gas is coincidentally becoming unaffordable. These people, you know, whether it's Obama or Biden or some global administration like WEF or the UN or the Vatican or probably all of the above, who are seemingly so deeply concerned about global warming, are likely the very same people who are responsible for a deliberate act to cause a colossal climate catastrophe, an act of environmental terrorism. It's also an act that the perpetrator would know full well would have retaliatory consequences and could well trigger nuclear war. Are we starting to see the plan here? This is all deliberate. They want a complete collapse of the world as we know it, because only then will they be able to take complete control. And the tragic thing is that at that time, so many people will believe that these people are their saviours instead of the destroyers that they actually are. And let's think about it. If you're going to be successful in establishing a tyranny, a totalitarian regime, you're going to need complete control over all the resources. So what happens if they're not for sale? I guess, well, your only option then would be to destroy them, wouldn't it? Just saying. Oh, and by the way, there's another coincidence. Another brand new pipeline has just been unveiled, set to go into operation today, actually. And wouldn't you know it, it's a non-Russian natural gas pipeline called the Baltic Pipe, in the exact same region, bringing gas from Norway to Europe. And without the Russian-owned Nord Stream to compete with, it's off to an unhindered start in what will undoubtedly be a shift in the power of nations. Now, to all you Facebook fact-checkers, or truth censors, should I say, who say I'm speaking, unproven accusations, let me just make it clear, I'm not making any accusations, I'm simply making some objective observations. And anyway, with guys like the former Polish Foreign Minister Radek Sikorski kicking about, I don't need to make any accusations. He says it so plainly, I don't even need to go there. Radek is now the chairman of the EU-USA delegation in the EU Parliament and very close buddies with Biden. On the 28th of September, just moments after the news of the pipeline attack became public, he tweeted this: "Thank you, USA," in a tweet that's since gone viral. He also pointedly retweeted Biden's statement about ending Nord Stream back in early February. Well, he certainly seems to be implying that the US is responsible, doesn't he? I mean, am I missing something here? But let's not make the mistake of fully diverting our glare to the US. We have to remember that it's the Vatican who was the original and most fervent pusher of this evil climate change agenda. And believe me, it's an evil agenda. It's got nothing to do with saving pandas. It was the Pope and popes before him who over and over again has been pushing this message of, reduction of use of fossil fuels, even before Obama was. And again, just so coincidentally, only 5 days before the pipeline attack, he was recorded for the first time telling the world that they now need to completely abandon the use of fossil fuels. Abandon was the word he used. That was a message adjustment, not a reduction, an abandonment of fossil fuels. He's initiated his Climate Sunday agenda in many parts of the world. And he's also brought about such enormous changes in law in so many places, yet to so many people, he's very much under the radar in a sense. I believe that we're yet to fully understand the global power of the Vatican in all of this. Me personally, I believe that this Vatican coin, minted in 1985, speaks far more honestly about the Vatican's true role in all of this in regards to climate change and the condition of our atmosphere. Well, people, war and the smokescreen defined as rumours of war is imminent. It's in the air and everything that comes with it. Cyber collapse, banking collapse, complete economic collapse. It's all imminent. But is it really any surprise? In the Earth's halls of power, truth and goodness has already well and truly collapsed. And this world is very much in the hands of evil people. But it's by no means hopeless. This all has to happen to usher in the incredible dawn at the end of this horrific night. So hang in there, our deliverer is able. Okay, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Unless that space Uber comes and picks me up first. See you next time. Bye.